Hey everyone, Brian here from Vintage Classic Specialist. Happy Wednesday, hump day everyone. Time for another episode of Day in the Life of Vintage Classic Specialist. So we are on a roll around here with new mini projects. So another one came in today. If you saw the thumbnail, you know I'm talking about that. So let me go ahead and start with that. That is actually what I worked most of the day on. So yeah, it is a 64 double cab, and as you can see, it's slammed. Not too low. I mean, it's still pretty drivable and stuff. It doesn't have fender tubs or anything up front, so it's not so low that it needs that. It does, I noticed when I was crawling around under there, have a steering box raise. Those of you that are not familiar with that, when the buses are low, the steering box ends up being kind of close to the ground, the way that it sort of hangs down under the car. So when you go low like this, they actually essentially put like a notch in the frame and raise the steering box up into the car a little bit more to give you better, essentially better ground clearance between the steering box and the ground. So other than that, yeah, it's got full on disc brakes front and rear. And you can see just got like some pretty nice patina on it. I think the owner was saying he wants to pretty much leave it like this and maybe put a clear coat on it just to kind of preserve what's here and not have it, rust out any further. I think he was saying he wanted to add like a chrome front emblem and a few other little kind of details like that. But other than that, he's just been like driving the heck out of this thing, and I can see why. So I've taking it on a few spins around the block to check various things out. I'll come back to that. But yeah, it runs and drives great, especially now. And that's the thing I'll come back to. Before that, though, let me show you a little surprise that this thing has. So when he first brought it in, I was going to open up the deck lid and take a look at the motor, kind of see what he has. It is I don't remember, guys, like a 2110 or 2180, maybe, like bus motor. So torquey, but not real aggressive or anything. However, it's got that. Let me zoom out a little bit here. It's got that. So basically somebody, I guess whoever he bought the bus from, the bus came from Santiago, cut out the bed and put in this cover, which is out of a Type 3. For those of you that are familiar with those, the motor on a Type 3 is a very flat motor, and it sits in the trunk of the car underneath the cover just like that. And so let me show you guys this. Basically, somebody added that, and I think probably, I don't know the full story, but the bed of this truck obviously needed a lot of work. You can see there's just a lot of like patches of non-original metal in here, including over here. So I'm wondering if maybe the bed in this truck was just like super rotted out anyway. And so somebody got the idea to go ahead and put, well, actually 2-axis covers. So that one I haven't lifted off because it does have keyed locks on it essentially. But I guess that one probably gives you access to maybe change the starter, I guess. And maybe the gas tank, the fuel sender, maybe if you needed to change that. So kind of cool. But yeah, this one is actually pretty handy because once you lift this off, I can latch it there or unhook it, then boom, there is the motor. And so again, it's like a 2180 or 2110 or something like that, and dual carbs, dual Webers. I don't know what size they are off the top of my head. I didn't try and get down in there and read them, but yeah, it seems to run okay. It's not the most powerful 2180 I've ever felt, and it's probably maybe even like kind of toward the weaker side. So I'm guessing it's just super mild as far as like probably compression ratio and heads and cam and stuff like that. But obviously it's much more potent than a stock motor, and this being a 64 would have come with like a 40 horse. So yeah, big step up over a stock motor for sure. So since I'm standing here staring at the motor already, one thing I've done so far is to go ahead and sync the carburetors. They were off a bit left to right. The linkage needed a little bit of fine tuning as well. So I took care of those things. I checked the timing. Um, I should back up a little bit and talk about what he brought the bus in for. So I probably should have done that earlier, but oh well, here we go. So he actually acquired this bus pretty recently, I think maybe around like the end of last year. And like I said, he's been driving it a lot, but it's got a few little things that he wants taken care of, and kind of like a general overall inspection just to make sure that it's, you know, safe, it's going to be reliable, etc. So, for example, I went and checked the syncing on the carburetors, the timing. It's had an oil change recently, but tomorrow I'm going to go ahead and pop the valve covers and check the valve adjustment. This valve cover on this side is leaking a considerable amount, but they are the Scat aftermarket ones that use like a stock style bail clip. So I don't know, guys. Sometimes some of the aftermarket valve covers just aren't really that flat. And if they're not really, really flat on the mating surface where the gasket goes, good luck getting them to not leak. So we'll see. I don't know. I'll give it a try and see what's going on. But yeah, adjust the valves, try and fix that leak on that valve cover gasket. Just do like an overall, you know, kind of check on it. And the other thing is, and this is one I don't know if I'll be able to solve it, but it does seem to have a power drain where if the bus sits for, I think he said like a day or two, it drains the battery pretty significantly to the point, I guess, where it won't start. And so he wanted me to see if I could figure out what was going on there. What I suspect is that it does have a stereo system in it. There's an amplifier, I think, underneath the front seats there, and obviously a head unit, and I'm not sure what else, but probably when somebody wired up the stereo or the amplifier, etc., they probably wired it up where something like maybe the amplifier is just hot all the time as far as receiving power, and something like that could definitely explain a drain going on. Because, you know, the stock wiring system is not very prone to draining the battery, you know, unless like a light is obviously on or a dome light or something like that. There's just not a heck of a lot on these. They're so simple that would really drain a battery like that. So I am suspecting it's a stereo system, but I'll have to get access to the amplifier and crawl up underneath the dash and check the wiring on the head unit and maybe look up wiring diagrams for those things. And it can be a real pain in the butt with aftermarket stuff like that to try and figure out what's what and, you know, whether things are connected correctly or not, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm going to try. He does have a battery disconnect on here where he can unplug the battery fairly easily, and so that it doesn't drain. In fact, I'll probably go ahead and do that tonight so it's not dead when I come in the morning. But yeah, so those are some of the things that I'm going to be doing on it. The other thing is, which I took care of already, is he said the shifting, the clutch felt very spongy, and I wasn't really quite sure what he meant by that. However, when I hopped in this thing to take it for a drive initially, so this is about the right amount of clutch play. That's about an inch. This thing had, the play was actually like to maybe there. And so it had so much play in it that even when you push the clutch all the way to the floor, it wasn't fully disengaging the clutch. And so that was making it really, really hard to get into gear. Pretty much all gears, but especially first seemed to be hard to get into. So adjusted the clutch. That helped, but it was still, the shifting was still fairly terrible, and you had to kind of feel your way into first and second gear, and just not a good shifting experience. So next thing I did was I crawled under it, and not surprisingly, the shifter bushing, which was the stock style, was completely toast, and so you had all this movement of the shift rod there that was definitely not helping things. So ran over to Washburns, which luckily they're like 2 blocks from me, grabbed a new Delrin one, pulled the shift rod, installed it, put it in, and it still was shifting very poorly. And I was actually able to get it into reverse without Well, here, hold on a second, guys. Let me just show you here. So when the car came in, it had an original scat shifter on it, like, not unlike this, because this is the actual one that it had on it. Kind of funny with the beer tap thing. But anyway, yeah, it had this shifter on it. And I don't know if this shifter is defective or there's like a bushing or something in there missing, but it has a lot of side to side movement. In other words, you know, this way, where it's like the reverse lockout, which on these is this little trigger thing here that you pull like that for a reverse. I could get this thing into reverse without even pulling that up because it was going so far over. And even as far as it would go over, that reverse thing wasn't even, the little button on their little knob sticking out wasn't even contacting the little plate that it's supposed to ride against. And so I don't know what's going on with this shifter, but I didn't see any way to really fix it. And it is all, you can't really see now with the boot on there, but it's basically like all riveted together in there, and there just did not seem to be any practical way to fix it. But for one reason or another, this thing has way too much there. You can see the little pin sticking out right there. That little pin does not even touch the side plate over here when you go all the way in that direction. And so, again, something's missing in there. And so I suggested to the owner that we pretty much just take this shifter off and put a Berg shifter on there. And that's what we did. And now the shifting, not surprisingly, is amazing. And so basically now it has a properly adjusted clutch. It's got a new Washburn Delrin bushing, and it's got a brand new Berg shifter. So the shifting on this thing now is pretty great. And again, before you had to really like fill your way into gear and stuff. Now it's basically like first, second, third, fourth, and then reverse, boom. So yeah, I drove it around. Upshift's great, downshift's great. Again, before this thing was just a total nightmare between the defective shifter and the bushing and the clutch adjustment. I'm kind of amazed that he was even able to drive this car. So those are things I already took care of. So again, tomorrow I will do the valve adjustment and then just probably crawl around the car to like a general safety inspection like I mentioned. And then the next thing is probably see if I can hunt down a drain on the battery system to see what's going on with this thing with that. And that's about it. So this car will probably only be here a couple days and send it on its way. And he's going to have, even if the only thing really I accomplish is that shifter, he's going to have a much better driving experience with this car. And he'll have some peace of mind knowing that I've kind of crawled around it and looked for anything, you know, kind of concerning or whatever. So there you go. That is pretty much the new mini or micro project. So this one, this morning, I just took it for a quick drive, make sure everything felt great. Everything still feels great. Before that, if you're following the saga of this, I did go and check all the valves and they were all still great. So whatever was going on with number one exhaust valve, I think it was probably just an error in adjustment by whoever worked on the motor last. I don't know, but at least so far I haven't seen any weirdness as far as the valves once I adjusted them. So fingers crossed that stays like that. And yeah, car runs great. The other issues with it, you know, sort of sputtering and losing power and stuff, I haven't experienced those. So I think I took care of those with some poor connections and stuff like that. So this one is supposed to go home on Friday. The only other thing he requested me to do is to remove his radio. Had a really nice, I don't even remember, I think it was like a Sapphire radio that is not functional. So he wanted me to go ahead and pull it out, which I did. And then he's going to try and find a shop that repairs these old radios and send it to them. And then he'll have a bitchin' old radio that works. But yeah, this one's leaving Friday. So the other major thing that happened around here today, I don't have any show and tell for because it is in the paint booth right now. And what I'm talking about is the red 66 bus. So that's what most of the team worked on again today. So Santiago continued working on the headliner and the sliding ragtop. Rene right now is touching up or painting the body. If you recall correctly, again, I'm talking about the red 66 bus. There was like a fender bender right here that Rene fixed. So he's spraying and then blending and clear coating the side of that bus right now. And Rafa worked on, again, I'm just using this bus for, demonstration purposes. And this one, yeah, so Rafa pulled all this mechanism out here. Again, I'm talking about the red bus, put a new seal on that big flap there, and then installed the whole set of flaps and stuff up here, which come as a kit from Wolfsburg West. So you have to pretty much assemble that kit. You have to put the rubber seals on the actual flappers themselves, and it's a pretty big job. He spent a good portion of the day working on this assembly for the red 66 bus. And he got it done, and that's good because that needs to be done before the headliner goes in the rest of the way. So now Santiago can finish working his upholstery magic on the red 66 bus. The other thing Rafa helped Rene with a bit today was the heater channels on the white 67 Bug. So if you recall on that one, the area, again, just showing you on this one, for example, the area right here that kind of always rots out was rotted out on both sides of that white 67 Beetle. And so Rafa and Rene kind of worked together to remove all the old bad metal and put in new metal. And then on the, at least on the driver's side, the little tube that comes up out of the front of the heater channel that runs up here, and then a paper tube goes on it, and that provides your defrosters. Anyway, the tube at the bottom on the driver's side at least was all rotted out. So Home Depot to the rescue. Rafa went and found a piece of metal tubing that was the right size, and they welded that down in there. So at least the driver's side now, that metalwork repair is nearly done. And the other side, I think, is in process. Again, I'm talking about the white 67 Beetle. So that's kind of what those guys were up to today. So guys, I believe that would be it for today. So as always, thank you guys very much for watching, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Bye.